In this tutorial, we will learn how to create a simple game using Processing. Processing is a flexible software sketchbook and a language for learning how to code within the context of the visual arts. Our game will involve catching falling objects with a movable character. Let's dive in. First, you need to download and install Processing. Head over to processing.org and download the latest version for your operating system. Once you've installed it, open the Processing IDE. Let's start by setting up the basic structure of our game. First, we need to define the size of our window. In Processing, you do this in the Setup function. This is where we initialize our game variables as well. The size, 800, 600, sets the dimensions of our window to 800 pixels wide and 600 pixels tall. Now, let's add some variables that we will use later in our game. We will need variables to track the player's position in the falling objects. Now, let's initialize the player position. We'll set the player character to be in the middle bottom of the screen. Next, we need to implement the Draw function, which is called repeatedly in Processing to create animations. Here, we will clear the screen, draw the player, and update the game state. In the Draw function, background 255 clears the screen to white on each frame. Now let's create a function to draw our player character. Next, we will add the functionality for falling objects. We will create a new class falling object that will have properties like position and speed. Inside this class, the fall method will update the position of the falling object, and the display method will draw it on the screen. Now, let's create some instances of this class and update their positions in the game. In the Update Falling Objects function, we add new falling objects every 30 frames. As they fall, we also check if they go off the screen to remove them from the list. It's time to implement collision detection between the player and falling objects. We will add a method to check if the player catches any falling object. In this Check Collisions method, we loop through all falling objects. If their position intersects with the player, we increase the score and remove that object. Now, let's call Check Collisions in our Draw function to ensure collisions are detected as the game updates. Next, we need to create a function to display the current score. This will be visible on the top left corner of our game window. Let's handle player movement. We'll capture mouse movements to update the player's position. To do this, we'll use the MouseX variable provided by Processing. With constraint MouseX 20 width 20, we ensure that the player character doesn't move off the edges of the window. Let's also add a game over condition. If any falling object reaches the bottom of the window without being caught, we will end the game. We'll display a game over message and stop updating our game components. In this code, we check if any object goes beyond the height of the window. If it does, we set game over to true. Now, let's display the game over message when this happens. Using no loop, we stop the draw loop when the game is over, preventing any further updates to the game state. Great! We now have a functioning game. Let's adjust some of the constants to fine-tune gameplay. To improve the game further, consider adding levels or increasing the speed of the falling objects as the score increases. You could implement additional features like sound effects or enhancing visuals. The possibilities are endless. Remember, the key to programming is iterating over your ideas. Don't hesitate to experiment with the code and make it your own. Alright, let's do a quick recap of the steps we took to create this game. We initialized our processing environment, set up our window, created game objects, implemented collision detection, and displayed scores. As a final note, I encourage you to share your creations with the processing community. You can find many additional resources and projects that can inspire your next adventure. Thank you for watching this tutorial on creating a simple game with processing. I hope you found it helpful and inspiring. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more coding tutorials.